This is Geek Gab with your host, Dornall, and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday, August 1st, 2020. Dornall, I'm gonna ask how your week. I'm gonna do that normal thing. Is there a day? Is there like a holiday for the? I mean, I know like the 1st of April is April Fool's Day. Is the 1st of August like Jerk's Day or Idiot's Day or Drunkard's Day or something similar?
I hate to break it to you, Daddy Warpig, but that's just about every other day.
Oh,
Did something in particular happen to make you wonder if it was a special day for jerks?
Well, I was doing two things there, really. That just kind of occurred to me last night as I was thinking about today. But I was also setting you up for a joke.
Did I mess that up?
I was just kind of lobbing a softball at you to see if you'd catch it. I was waiting for you to say, yeah, it's Late Person's Day.
I see. No, you're on another level from me, Daddy Warpig. This is why you write the jokes on the show.
Yeah, I was actually late today, folks. Like at exactly, and this, I don't think this has ever happened ever in the entire show. At 12 up, straight 12 up, time to start the show, I was not even anywhere close to signing in to being on the show. It was Brad and John there talking in the green room, waiting for me to scramble. I was actually at that moment looking for my earphones. So it took me another full 3 minutes to decouple them from my phone, couple them to my computer, and sign in and assure people I was actually alive. Sorry, just checking again. Yes, I am alive and I am here.
This is reality. This is not a dream. Except, unless you think all of this is a dream.
It could be.
In which case, welcome to my shared hallucination.
So, we've got some more information on the dream front, more proof on the dream front, or as people call it, the simulation.
Sure.
I don't want to go into the background because it's nitty gritty, real world details that are kind of grody and just they're a downer, and I don't want to be a downer on the show. But I do want to mention this because it's so freaking hilarious. Yesterday, in connection with some things, the FBI released a massive document dump about a huge and ongoing scandal concerning many, many, many powerful and rich men. Now, you know what scandal to which I refer.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful and rich and prominent political figures high in government places who have been doing some naughty, bad, evil things. They released these damn documents and they took the pains to go through and redact these documents, which means they covered the text in black so you can't read names and circumstances. Very important, so that certain information that makes the FBI look bad isn't released.
Wait. They did it so that the FBI wouldn't look bad? I thought the purpose of that was to protect identities and sources and other things that weren't ready to be released yet. Are you telling me that
sure.
it was purely a PR move to redact the stuff that would embarrass the FBI?
Oops, I'm sorry. Was I being cynical on the air again? My bad. Sources and methods to protect sources and methods. My bad. I have allowed my cold-hearted interior to be free on the air again. Please forgive me besmirching the reputation of the FBI.
The
with
Federal Bureau of
mere
Investigation, Daddy
speculation.
Warpig, is one of our oldest and most respected government institutions.
Yes, I should not have besmirched their reputation with rumor and innuendo when I can besmirch their reputation with sheer mind-boggling incompetence. Because in redacting that information, all you have to do in at least one of these critical documents to gain access to the unredacted information is to copy it and paste it into MS Word. Or notes, even notes. The text editor, the default text editor that ships with Windows, copy, paste, and you can read everything that's in the document.
That's amazing.
That's the FBI, folks. Those are the crack federal investigators who are in charge of our national counterintelligence apparatus. I feel so much safer.
I feel like they hired some intern to, hey, you need to go over this text. Here's the stuff that you need to black out. And they're like, okay, I'm not sure how to do that. I guess I'll just highlight it and change the background to black. That works, right? Black on black. Nobody can read that.
You can see why the thing about August 1st being maybe, I mean, I know it's not officially April Fool's, but it makes you wonder. So
this is my policy, Daddy Warpig. It would make me wonder, but I've said it several times already. Once the Cubs won the World Series, all bets are off. I hate to say it. Maybe I've become jaded. Reality cannot surprise me. Well, no, I take that back. In the green room, Bradford and I. Hey, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
I know you had something else you wanted to talk about, Daddy Warpig, but apparently people pretending to be anime girls on live streams on YouTube and Twitch TV is a thing. So I don't have any more to say about that. It's just sometimes reality can surprise me.
So how was your week? Because I promised we'd get around to that after I got done with the FBI.
Oh, my week was fine. Just the normal stuff, day to day, enjoying my my quarantine at home. We're not so quarantined these days, but Washington State's one of those states where the governor's decided that masks are mandatory everywhere when you're out in public, inside at least, and most people wear them in stores, and most people just go to the park and don't wear them anyway. It's nice. We've had some crazy heat. There's about 1 month during the year in Western Washington where it's just hot and dry, which is nice. And I don't mean Utah hot and dry. I lived in Salt Lake for a few years, and I don't want to hang out in 105-degree heat anymore. But yeah, we've had 85 degrees and sunny all week, and so it's been nice. A nice time to be out here on the Sound. But I haven't been doing much. Just hanging out, role-playing games in the evenings. You know how it is.
Cool. All right. See, my voice is fading because I need a sip of water. You stop, and immediately I start talking, and I realize, my mouth is dry.
Here's a professional technique I learned from awesome radio hosts like Daddy Warpig. You can drink while I'm talking.
Yes, that is true. So what I wanted to do, I spent 9 half hours of my life, which is about 4.5 hours, Um, yeah, that's math, folks. That is the power of math.
I don't know why that struck me as so funny, but you're on fire today, man. Keep them coming.
I am so glad. I just realized I had a happy moment. Can I share my happy moment?
That's what we're here for.
I realized that I had forgotten enough of Star Trek Discovery to be able to quote their stupid line about how math is the greatest, or yay math, or I don't even know what they said anymore. I have forgotten Star Trek Discovery enough that I don't know that line, so I can't quote it in bitterness and sarcasm. And that lifts my spirits. That makes me feel better. I have become a better person. Sorry, folks.
I don't mean to give you a downer, Daddy Warpig, but think about it. There's probably a few billion people on the planet who either have avoided or never had the opportunity to ever watch Star Trek. So we gotta count your blessings.
Well, yeah, those people, bless them too. They're better for it.
Yeah,
they're better people. They're not supposed to go out daily and do battle with the badness of bad space opera. Speaking of doing battle with the badness of bad space opera, I had a review of a show called Adventure 5 that was broadcast on HBO that I made the mistake of watching a trailer of and thinking to myself, hey, that's got Hugh Laurie in it. And it doesn't look like, well, I mean, I like Hugh Laurie. I like him. I liked him in House MD, which was a spectacular show I watched the hell out of. I liked him in the seasons of Blackadder he was in. And he's a great actor. You know, that's great. I liked him in his little cameo in Friends. And I was excited. I thought, well, it's got Hugh Laurie. How bad could it be?
How bad could it be, Daddy Warpig?
Those of you with a proper sense of oncoming doom and a proper sense of foreshadowing can sense the blackness approaching on the horizon, can see the dark clouds yay out there with their jags of lightning, and though the rains have not yet come, you can sense that it'll be a doozy. You can sense that we need to batten down the hatches. Man, this show is awful. I mean, I'm not just talking. There's a lot of superficial awful about the show, but on a fundamental level, the show was really, really awful. You know, there's this trend in modern comedy with the woke, where they say that comedy doesn't have to be funny anymore. And what they mean is you can have a comedian get up on stage and talk for 10 minutes, and it can have all of the tempo of a stand-up comedian. They can talk like this and pause a little bit and then talk like that as if a punchline has just been delivered. Only nothing funny was said, and nobody laughs because it's not supposed to be funny. They've forgotten even the very concept of humor and actually write articles defending the fact that comedy isn't funny. And say things like, you know, it's time to move beyond the concept of quote unquote funny. And they've got whole Netflix specials with people doing quote unquote comedy that never gets near funny. Well, this show is about a luxury starliner that takes people from Earth out to Saturn, around it, and back to Earth. It's supposed to be a 6-month voyage that turns into a 3-year voyage. So if you can imagine a show that gets that far away, 3-year voyage away from being funny.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about.
I've read someone criticizing another type of show with the same problem. He called those things jokeoids. They had the structure and the cadence of a joke, but as you said, nothing funny was said. There was no punchline. And so you start to wonder, has everybody forgotten how to write jokes?
The show is full of things that happen and characters that only make sense if you're trying to make something funny, but they don't even try to make jokes. I mean, like, they don't even try. They don't even do setup punchline. They're just kind of there saying lines. And it doesn't make sense as a drama. They're not even trying. I mean, a guy who gets on a car and drives around a track with a bunch of other cars is presumably at least trying to win, right?
Sure.
But what do you call somebody who gets a car and gets sponsored and gets stickers and has a pit crew and who puts on the uniform and, you know, gets in the car and they wave the red flag and he doesn't drive anywhere and he just sits in the car and just watches everybody else drive? Is he even trying to race?
Sounds like he succeeded in getting a paycheck.
This show succeeded in getting a paycheck? Yeah. I'm sure all the actors got paid, all the people behind the scenes got paid.
I'm glad that such important, productive members of society were able to make a living.
But they didn't even try to make a functioning show. So beyond that, none of the people come across as human. Like, none of them. Not a single one of them in the entire show. Nothing, not a single thing they say or do the entire 4.5 hours is recognizably human.
And not in the rubber forehead alien kind of way, but in the Tommy Wiseau who wrote this kind of way.
Yeah. And not even in a so bad it's good kind of way. It's just baffling.
So I'm sorry you subjected yourself to that. You take a great deal of punishment and pain for our entertainment.
Even Hugh Laurie couldn't make his character seem human. And it's not actually a bad idea. The idea for the show is actually a decent idea. Here's how it is. Like I said, it's a luxury starliner. It's basically a cruise in space, right?
Sure.
You're taking one of those cruises out to Saturn and back. Well, in order to make it better for the passengers, they have actors hired to play the captain and the crew that everybody sees. They're models and actors and stuff. So they're all like beautiful, sexy, and everything you see on the bridge is a lie. It's all fake. It's a set. And the captain, all he's supposed to do is have a beard and seem in command and seem reassuring and laugh with the passengers and have great conversation around the table. That's his job. He's a conversationalist and he seems calm and steady. That's what he does. He's not a real captain. He doesn't know anything about space flight. He doesn't know anything about rocketry or anything else. And then behind the scenes, in the lower decks, where all the service people do laundry and keep the cleaning supplies and keep the foods to be cooked and taken up to the passenger decks, you have the real crew. You know, instead of wearing these beautiful spotless uniforms and absolutely flawless makeup, they're dressed in jumpsuits. They're grease monkeys. You know? That's an interesting setup. That has potential. Whoa, Dornall dropped out. That's not nervous making or anything. And an accident happens, and the ship has a big flip where all the people, the gravity flips for a bit, all the passengers get injured, and a couple of the critical, actual, real crew get killed. And then the fake captain has to step in and actually be a leader and actually do some real captaining. That could be an interesting, worthwhile series. It could be fun. It could be funny. But nobody who made the show knows how to make it good. And that's the problem. They squandered something great. They squandered legitimately good actors. Most of the people on the show, legitimately good actors. Are you back with us, Dorno?
Hey, actors got to eat too. Technical difficulties resolved.
Okay. But did you hear most of the premise of the show?
I did. It sounds like someone had a crazy idea. It sounds like something that you could work with. And judging by your reaction, the people that tried to implement it do not know how to write a funny story. Hey, comedy's hard. But the part that bothers me is that how did it get to that point? How did it get to be completely produced? People can tell when something's not funny.
I think they got a big actor attached to the project, and a big actor can do a lot to push a show through.
Mm. Hey, they got you to watch. Sucker.
True enough. Okay. I know we should talk to.
We should talk to our guest about good space stuff.
I will say this: I do not recommend it. It's not 4.5 hours well spent. So go watch something else, or read something else, like Bradford Walker's stuff.
Ooh, clap, clap, clap. Daddy Warpig, your top shelf segues today. This is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Welcome to the show again.
Yeah, glad to be back.
How is it? Is experiencing the Daddy Warpig rant? You're one of our regular live listeners. Is it different live versus on YouTube?
Aside from not having to account for the delay, not really. It's about the same.
It's about the same. It's about the same. Okay. Well, maybe we'll do a special show where everybody just gets to hang out in chat and listen to Daddy Warpig do it live.
Do what live?
The rant. Some people just come here to. I'm taking away. Brad. Bradford Walker has been patiently sitting here, enjoying the tasteful banter, and he wants to talk about his stuff. And now it's my turn to just take all that time away. Hey, how have you been, sir?
All things considered, I've been pretty good. Aside from that little sidetrack I had almost little over a year ago, where I was in the hospital for a combined total of 4 months. Yeah, it's been pretty good. In fact, I just had my last regular checkup on Monday, so I'm in pretty good health now, and that's one of the things that had me go ahead and start this recent Indiegogo campaign, so I can take my manuscript for book 2 of the Knight Saga, hand it off to Brian, pay him, and then I can get the next volume into the hands of all of you, my faithful readers.
That's great to hear. Yeah, just for anybody new, you had completed your first book in the Knight Saga, and then you were sick and you went to the hospital and you were gone for 4 months, right about the time when you wanted to sort of release it and get it out to everybody, and that sort of caused a delay in delivering it. But it sounds like you've had a really good year and you're ready to give us book 2.
Yeah, I've managed to adjust to life after a nearly
near-death experience.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. All my remaining body functions are working well enough. I'm pretty comfortable back at home, and I'm ready to get back to it. So with book 2, we are picking up a few months after Reavers left off, and the plot, and I don't waste a whole lot of time, up front. Like all of this is like, over and done with before chapter 1 is halfway over. Our dear heroine, Countess Gabriella Robin, has been in hiding. The Red Eyes Pirates have been trying to find her, and the mastermind behind the events of book 1 has been busy dodging political counterattacks. And the plot picks up where that impasse is about to break. Both our hero, Lord Roland of the Vatican Solar Guard, and our mastermind villain, Count Vikun Kiss, have put together plots that are going to break this impasse, and they execute them about the same time. And the story that you will be reading with Hounds of Nimrod is the back and forth between those plots as as both men try to outmaneuver the other and get them into a checkmate position. And this is not, if you're looking for something out of pop culture that, to kind of compare this to, your go-to is going to be Mission Impossible 2, where both the hero and the villain try to outwit each other, and there's a woman in the middle who acts as the focus for that plot. The big difference here, of course, is that there are laser swords and giant robots and spaceships.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the one thing a Tom Cruise movie needed, and it sounds like you supplied it.
Yeah, and as by the time of this episode, the campaign it has 12 days to go. We are at 70% to goal, and I'm offering a lot of the same perks that Brian does with his crowdfund campaigns for Combat Frame Exceed. So if you've listened to his shows, and if you haven't, go go to the archives, watch Brian's most recent appearances on the Gab, and what he does with Build a Mech and Be in a Book, Die in a Book, that kind of thing. I'd offer the same thing, and at roughly the same costs. And in fact, if you go to the campaign page, and you'll find that there are 3 Build a Mech slots left to be had, and if those 3 slots are filled, we will hit goal, and the first stretch goal immediately becomes available, as well as a new perk, which is going to be yet another build kind of option, but for something a little bigger.
Cool. And how have those options been received?
Build a Mech has been well received. In fact, one of the buyers is in the chat. But since this is the first time I've offered it, there may be some reticence as to whether or not it's going to be exactly the same procedure. I will assure you, I'm not. Brian hasn't. I've never bought one from Brian because I haven't had the spare cash. But pretty much what Brian does is what I will be doing, and that will include, Ardenon, who's also in the chat, will illustrate your mech, and I will post the final stats to the blog with the illustration, and it will become canon for the Knight Saga.
Well, that sounds like fun. I still owe Brian a Build a Mech for his last thing. I must disclose the fact that I've already backed it. I'm looking forward to my Dead Tree copy as soon as it's available. I'll put it right next to Reavers on my bookshelf. I might even read it. That's a joke. I liked Reavers. We talked about it on the show. So that sounds great. If to recap, you've got a sequel that sort of follows up from the plots of the first one, and you've got perks similar to Brian, so that people can sort of help fund the book, so that you can fund editing services and everything, and they can put themselves into the story. They can either put a character into the story, or they can build a giant robot that will become part of the narrative. That sounds great.
And for those who are coming in late, don't worry about catching up. If you back for a book at all, you will get a digital copy of Reavers emailed to you as soon as the campaign is over. And the first stretch goal is that anybody who puts in for a paperback will also get a paperback copy of Reavers automatically, if once we hit the stretch goal.
Oh, cool. I had a question, and I took a sip of tea, and I lost it.
Is this when I'm supposed to jump in and save you?
Help!
So, when you're looking for mechs to build, has the people who've built them just really surprised you?
I really hope so. This is the first time I've offered Build a Mech, so this is going to be new for me. Going from what people have done with Brian's stuff for Combat Frame Exceed, I'm hoping I get the same kind of surprise creativity, and I expect I will, because Brian's rules for Exceed by nature have to be a little more constrained because of what he's using as his model. And my paradigm for mech design is a lot broader because I'm playing with a mature galactic civilization, and even though the levels of technological availability vary from place to place, there is something of a baseline, and that baseline is what I established with the mechs that appeared in Reavers. So the going baseline is basically, if you could imagine it appeared in something like Mobile Suit Gundam, that's pretty viable. But we're going to see some new designs of different scales with Hounds of Nimrod. We're going to be seeing some smaller stuff. Because the action in Hounds of Nimrod is based around the Terran solar system, good old Earth. We're going to see action on Earth. We're going to see action around Ganymede. We're going to see some action around Mars, and some of it is going to be man-to-man. Some of it's going to be smaller mechs in action. There's going to be some interaction between scales of machines that heretofore have been implied but haven't really been brought forward and focused on. So we're going to see that there is a larger room for what is available in mech design when I hope when our Build-A-Mech backers get together with me after the campaign's over, we start talking about what we're going to do.
So that's a great point that you make, that you've got a broader selection, because when I did the Build-A-Mech with Brian, the first thing I asked, let me come back around. A lot of people have an idea because they're fans of the genre what they want to write, but in my case, I'm not. And I asked Brian, hey, what's the context? What sorts of holes are you trying to fill in the story or the plot or something like that? And the first time around, it was like, well, I've got room for an alien mech and I've got room for this and that. And I was like, cool, let me do the alien mech. So that's the sort of thing that it's good for you to have that answer ready to say, hey, there's room for terrestrial fighting on Mars or Earth, and there's room for giant space battles and blah, blah, blah. Whatever your influence is, we'll try to work it out. I actually, that also brought me to a question I had about the story itself. It sounds like you're going, and you revealed, spoiler, in Reavers, you revealed the big bad guy, and he's sort of working his magic from Earth. He's a highly connected guy who's got nefarious plots. And so is this story going to dial back the space action, or are we going to see a lot more intrigue and a lot more personal fighting or earthbound fighting and other kinds of action, or is it additive or something else?
Altogether, we are going to be seeing some, we're going to see some space action, but exactly how that goes down actually plays into what our villain's plot entails. Those of you who love Dashing Jack and Gory are going to be happy because those two come back, and they're going to be leading the villain's spaceborne actions in this book. Our big pirate mastermind, the leader of the Red Eyes Armada, the eponymous Red Eyes, he actually gets rotated, to the back burner, and that's because he's being set up for the third book. His appearances are going to be few, and he's very much part of the B plot, so to speak. So more of Dashing Jack and Gory, not so much with Red Eyes. But you want to pay attention to what's going on with the relationships between those three characters and our mastermind, Count Vikun Kiss, because when book 3 hits, a lot of why that's being done and how that goes down is going to be set up here.
So even though you've got a clear conflict in mind with the fate of the Countess in hiding, and will this mastermind's plots be disrupted by our galactic hero? This is also serving as a bridge to a third book in the series. Are you working to a trilogy? Is it going to be a classic opening, bridge, fantastic finale?
Yeah, this arc is a 3-book arc, and after that we will be after that most of the major plot threads that have been set up in Reavers are going to be resolved, and what's going to be left is something that's going to go carry over to the next arc after that.
Oh, okay. I think I see what's going on. I did want to ask, is there anything more you want to say to help anybody who just listened to that and have not read Reavers? What should we know about your books and what to expect? And go ahead.
Well, the major influences, for me putting together the Star Knight Saga, one of them are the great historical romances of Western literature. The matter of Britain, which is the Arthurian cycle, the matter of France, which is everything about Roland and Charlemagne and the Paladins, and the matter of Rome, which is all of the classical heroic literature of Greece and Rome. So the Aeneid, Iliad, etc. And that means that there's going to be an overarching plot thread that goes on for quite some time. So this is not, I did not envision this to be a simple 3-book trilogy. I envisioned this as 9. So 3 sets of, a trilogy of trilogies. So what starts with Reavers, where it's a pretty simple, hey, we're a bunch of space pirates, let's go grab the princess, starts spiraling out of control as the events become truly epic and galactic in scope and scale. And that's why the original title was The Matter of the Milky Way. And internally, when especially this is going to start cropping up more and more once we get further along. The events of the early books, which are going to be encapsulated as the taking of Gabriella Robin, are going to start becoming called by characters as The Matter of the Milky Way. And that's because what started off as a bunch of space pirates rampaging around the galaxy start becoming something far greater in importance, and our mastermind villain is going to be the driving force behind that. And that leads to a concept that's being introduced somewhat explicitly with Hounds of Nimrod, but was implied with Reavers, and that's the intervention of the supernatural. For those who missed it in Reavers, there is a fallen angel, a literal fallen angel, who's one of the bad guys, and he's a minor. He plays a supporting role, but he doesn't really do much other than be the guy who makes all of the bad guys really important super technology. Well, we're going to see a little more of that in Hounds of Nimrod, and we're going to see what that can involve. We're going to see the use, of technology that isn't entirely what it seems. More than that, and I will spoil a key element of the story. We're going to be seeing yet more of the motif where the bad guys run around looking like Bronze Age warriors. We're going to see more, we're going to see more use of imagery and language revolving around the Bronze Age. We're going to see yet more people saying "Victory for Babylon" as the villainous battle cry. And we're going to start seeing the good guys, start using their own counterparts.
Ooh, that sounds That sounds like a way to turn it from just a little
It's
conflict over
victory for Cleveland, isn't it?
victory for Cleveland. I like it.
Damn straight.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I really do hate in fiction are characters that are good, but they win because of plot, and I don't like that. I don't like villains that succeed because of plot either. Idiot balls and their counterparts are tropes that I find annoying. So I do my best to put together intelligent heroes and villains who put together plots that are not too hard for a reader to follow, but make sense within their own context. And Hounds of Nimrod is very much an exercise in that, for me. So we're going to see Lord Roland be more than just a very stalwart, square-jawed kind of guy. We're going to start seeing him be very intelligent, very calculating, and do so without being, without having to, do something else that I think is a lot of a very much a trope of the woke folks in science fiction, where they honestly believe that good is dumb, and therefore you cannot be an intelligent character without being, without being morally compromised somehow. And that's not a thing. You can be a morally upright character with rock hard integrity and still be a very smart, very calculating, even very cunning individual.
I like the sound of that. If I may go on a tangent, it sounds like you're describing a phenomenon that I encountered a long time ago, trying to figure out why villains are so popular. Because in Hollywood and modern stories anyway, or comic books even, the villain is competent. The villain is the master of his destiny and the driver of these stories. The comic book heroes in particular, they are often reacting to a villain's nefarious plot, or James Bond 007, which is that sort of cunning, clever sort of protagonist. These are villains who they know what they want. They've enacted a crazy plan to do it, and they have no scruples, and they may be downright evil. And at any rate, they're a thorn in the protagonist's side, but they're going after it. And so, even though they're the bad guys, there's a sort of a begrudging respect or admiration for that. Competent people who execute the plans that they want to get what they want, that's admirable. And not to put words in your mouth, it sounds like you want to see that in your protagonists as well.
Mm-hmm.
A good example is we just talked about Peace Talks, the new Harry Dresden book. Have you read that yet?
No, I haven't.
Well, I like it. And one of the things about the Dresden Files is that, every once in a while, Harry gets the main character gets a handout from his fairy godmother or whomever. But often he's sort of thrown into these weird circumstances, and he has to fight or figure out his way out. Right? There's always something where he cleverly uses his knowledge or powers that he's learned throughout the book to turn everything around and escape alive, that sort of thing. It sounds like you want to do that. You want your protagonists to be competent, to be admirable, and not just win because they are good. Win because they are good and competent. Is that fair, or am I just rambling?
Yeah, you've got it. It's one of the things that really, I think is something that is missing, and some folks in the chat are noticing it. It's the moral element to the fiction, to this kind of fiction has been missing, for quite some time, and it is up to us in the indie scene to bring it back, and I'm glad to be part of that. Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I think is going to be interesting, and if I can pull it off, I know I've done it right. Is that there are elements to to the characters that are not propagandistic, but are supposed to be something that God, I'm trying to remember. Let me rephrase. I got an email from a man over the week, and he was asking about what was in my books because he wanted to be able to read it to his children, and his children are very young, about preschool age, and he wanted to know if there was any adult content or language, and I said no, and I've studiously avoided that that because I wanted an all ages audience, and I really hadn't thought about it at the time because I wasn't really when I wrote Reavers, I wasn't necessarily thinking about people buying it to read to their children, but I was thinking of it in the terms that have been discussed in book Twitter just the other day, which is writing stories that older children, roughly preteen, early teenage, could read and see as a model, and see there's a model for someone that they should become when as they pass through adolescence and into adulthood. And that's why the character of Cretan is there. Cretan is very much meant to be that kind of young boy about to enter adolescence, that character, that age group, looking at first his father and then his father's master, respectively Sibley and Lord Roland, as the adult role models for him to emulate. And for those who are looking for a dynamic character who changes over time, that's the guy to watch. He's introduced at age 10 in Reavers. He's still the same age for Hounds of Nimrod, and he'll be about that age when the next book, tentatively titled The Siege of Second Salisbury, happens. And then there's a time skip, and he gets a little older. He actually passes into adolescence by book 4. And by the time the entire 9-book series I have planned is finished, he's actually reaching adulthood in galactic Christendom. And by that point, the boy who looked up to Lord Roland is now becoming a young man who could easily succeed him in time. And that's not without struggle, that's not without pain, but there is something that he has to become. He has to work at it over time in order to become the man that he sees now as his model. And I think that's important for literature in order to have its lasting impact across generations. It's why people still read the John Carter books. It's one of the reasons people still read Tarzan. It's one of the reasons people still pick up the medieval romances like the Song of Roland, is that these protagonists, these hero characters, are not just characters whose lives we vicariously enjoy, but we are able to look at them either as children or as the fathers and mothers of children and point to them and say, this is somebody we should model ourselves after as best we can.
It sounds like Roland is an archetype.
Oh, he most definitely is.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. And by contrast, the villains are meant to be characters that are to be taken as warnings for somebody who may or may not be inclined to go wrong. Dashing Jack is meant to be a very tragic character, and over time, that's how and why he is and what happens as a result becomes more obvious. Some characters are just plain bad, and that too will become obvious. But the thing that the thing that I really want to attempt here is I'm basically talking to all of the morons who just celebrated that fake award ceremony called the Hugos, and say, no, you suck. You abandon everything that makes science fiction great, and here's why. I'm doing this with less than you do, and I'm still clowning on you, even though I am literally down a leg.
That's it. The one-legged man outrights all of you. Well, I did like Reavers, and I look forward to seeing what you've got coming out here. As I said before, I'm not a fan of the genre. In fact, I got a funny story to tell you later. But I'm looking forward to it. I've backed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing a paperback of that. And I hope you have great success, because it sounds like you know what you want, and to pull that off would result in a very satisfying and enjoyable series.
Thank you all. And I'll put this out on the record. Brian, when he did his last Exceed, campaign, said that he at 10K he would be looking at doing a manga adaptation. Well, that's been one of my goals for Star Knight since the start, and probably sometime after I finished book 3, I really do want to start looking into taking those 3 books and start adapting them to other media, audio books and comic adaptations being the 2 that are probably most feasible. After that, we'll see what happens. But my the dream is actually to make my way to an anime adaptation, and not just seasonal trash. I'm talking about the really good stuff that a lot of us remember from the peak period between the late 80s all the way through the 90s.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Well, since that's a common thing I've heard from you guys before, the sci-fi mech fans like you and Brian Niemeyer, would you settle for an Americanized anime such as Avatar: The Last Airbender, or does it have to be full-on Studio Ghibli, done by the Japanese, or not at all?
It's not so much that I would refuse an American studio. It's that the current problem with the American end of the business is that it's thoroughly converged, and therefore it's so full of these insufferably woke twats that I just can't trust them not to attempt to distort, corrupt, or outright steal the property out from under my nose. And that's why I have made a condition that any film or TV adaptation has to have the music done by only one person. Only one person I will accept as being in charge, and that's Yoko Kanno.
I don't know who that is, but I'm sure that means a lot to fans.
She's the inspiration for my heroine, Gabriella Robin.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, you've got to get the right singer.
Well, singer, composer, arranger, all-around musical genius. She's a veteran of the business, been around since the 80s, and still vital and active. She's just not been really visible much in the last couple of years. The big reason for that is insisting on Yoko Kanno doing the music is pretty much my Brown M&M contract clause. For those who don't know what that is, that's a trope coined by David Lee Roth when he was the lead singer of Van Halen. He put that in the contract clause for all of their concert venues as a way of measuring at a glance whether or not the contract was read properly, so that when their stage was set up, it would be set up properly so that there would be no safety concerns at the show. And the way it worked was they had a rider in their contract that said there had to be a fishbowl full of brown M&Ms. No, M&Ms with no brown M&Ms in it in the dressing room. And what David Lee Roth would do is he'd go into the dressing room, find the fishbowl, and then he would actually fish through and see if there were any brown M&Ms. And if there were, he would turn to the band and they cancel the show. And they'd have grounds for it because the venue was in breach of contract. And inevitably, when they would also check the stage equipment, and things would be out of compliance. They wouldn't be, the electrical stuff wouldn't be set up right, or the pyrotechnics. Remember, this is Van Halen in their heyday. They had pyrotechnics. They were set up wrong, and there were safety hazards either for themselves, for the audience, or for the technical crew. Somebody could have been hurt, and that would have led to lawsuits and other complications. And just having that one seemingly stupid clause in the contract avoided all of that hassle. And it's, something like that is now very common in the mainstream entertainment business. So I decided that something like that would be my thing, to make certain that I got the the quality I wanted out of any media adaptations.
That's a good idea. Protect yourself. Protect your property. I think we should start wrapping up here. Daddy Warpig, do you have any final questions or comments?
I am meditating on this subject. Give me a sec. Why don't you?
Absolutely. Well, I'll say I've already spoken about. I hope you do well on the campaign, and I hope that the book comes out great. I do want to say, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you on. It is a little unusual to see your name here instead of in the chat. We don't have any questions from chat today, but you've got a lot of people really excited about the Star Knight Saga and your ideas on heroes and villains and doing good for indie publishing. So it's great to see everybody there. Much love for everybody in the audience, especially Yoko Kanno. It's Raul and Judd Goswick are shaming me here. Sorry, guys. I saw one Escaflowne movie once, and I promptly forgot it. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Best of luck. I think you've got some cool stuff going on, and I hope you make it work. And next time something cool happens, come back on and chat with us about it.
Yeah, will do.
Awesome. Daddy Warpig has sipped and sipped and sipped and meditated.
We are 70% to goal. Just $300 more will get us over the top. That's three. That's three Build-A-Mechs, and there are also Be in a Book, Die in a Book, character illustrations, and design the back cover as featured perks right now. Let's see. I hope. God, I don't see the campaign link in the chat, and I don't have link permissions. So could either of you drop the campaign link into the chat, please?
I can do that. I will say that it's in the show notes already. I made sure it was in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you haven't stopped by the Indiegogo page, yet, and the link will be in the description after the show. Otherwise, or in the chat right now. And you can get in for as little as $5, or if you want to throw more at me, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. And I want, assuming Brian's got room in his schedule, for me, I should be able to get the manuscript to him, get it back, do revisions, and get it out the door be no later than Christmas this year. And I will try not to screw up the release, the release this time, so that all of you who backed for a paperback are not, actually get your copy before it's available on Amazon. I apologize for screwing it up last time. I didn't know how that worked. So, long and short is that campaign hits goal. Next stretch goal, which is 1,500, will be the paperback catch-up option, upgrade for the paperback backers. Everybody gets a digital copy of Reavers if you put in for a book at all. As soon as the campaign is done, and of course, you'll get your digital copies of Hounds of Nimrod as soon as it's finished. So please, please double check that your email address is correct. Please double check that your mailing address is correct. And since I'm handling all fulfillment by myself, I want to make certain that I get it all done right the first time. And you guys get your copies as soon as I can get them to you. Thank you all very much for backing Reavers. Thank you all very much for backing Hounds of Nimrod. If you haven't, please do so. And as soon as it's available up on Amazon, please submit reviews. User reviews help. I don't have the advertising budget that John Delarose does, so every little bit helps.
All right. Well, I want to thank Brad for coming on the show. I want to thank my inimitable and inestimable co-host, John. I want to thank everybody who showed up in the chat, and I want to thank everybody who come and listen later. You can catch us on youtube.com/Geek Gab. Once again, that's youtube.com/Geek Gab. And we are also available on the Google Play Store. We are also available on SoundCloud.com and on the iTunes Store. Come and listen, subscribe on the device of your choice. Folks, we are signing off for today. But don't you worry. Don't you fret. We will be back.